Good morning. Thank you for watching. Before I begin, I want to recognize something important. In this talk, I've used imagery of light and dark to describe emotional states: hope, clarity, uncertainty, sorrow. But I also know in many cultures, including our own, language around light as good and dark as bad has been deeply entangled with racism and bigotry. That's not just a linguistic accident. It's part of a long history of harm. When I speak of light in this context, I'm not speaking of whiteness. And when I speak of dark, I'm not speaking of blackness or brownness or anything about race. In fact, some of the deepest wisdom, beauty, and strength I know has come from places the world might call dark. Ethical humanism teaches us to look beyond simplistic binaries and to see each human being and each metaphor with complexity and care. Darkness can be fertile, restful, sacred, and light, when too harsh, can also blind. We need both, and I want to honor both. So, in that spirit, let us begin finding beauty in the gray, lessons from the Oregon coast. We live in a time that asks a great deal of us. Each day we carry the strain of uncertainty and contradiction, beauty alongside grief, joy alongside exhaustion, hope alongside heartbreak. The headlines speak of upheaval, worldwide instability, environmental disruption, persistent injustice, and deepening inequality. We witness cruelty, yet we also witness care. We are pulled in many directions at once, and many of us are simply trying to remain present for one another and for ourselves. In the noise, the uncertainty, and the ache, there is still splendor. I hadn't really stopped to see it in a long while. And when it revealed itself to me, it wasn't loud or showy. It was quiet and steady, a beauty that invited me to slow down and pay attention, to breathe. Ethical humanism encourages us to live with our eyes and hearts open, not just to the pain in the world, but also to the wonder. I had the privilege of stepping into that kind of beauty in June during a vacation to the northern Oregon coast. One morning, I witnessed something captivating and profound. I had traveled to Astoria, Oregon, a coastal town where my son Keenan is stationed with the Coast Guard. I was surrounded by mountains, evergreens, and the slow rhythm of the river meeting the sea. I found myself not just visiting him, but being reminded of what it means to feel rooted and connected in uncertain times, to him and to the world around me. One early morning alongside the Columbia River, I was wrapped in the stillness of dawn, and I watched as the mist stretched its fingers over the mountaintops. Long, delicate tendrils reached over the ridgeline for the other side of the mountain, as if the sky itself were trying to coax something wondrous into the light. It was a moment suspended in silence and awe. And in that moment, so close to the ocean, I could smell the salt on the breeze. I found not only beauty, but meaning. I felt calmer than I had in months, maybe even all year. My nervous system, which had been on high alert for a very long time, surrendered to the profound infinity of the mountains and the mist, and this ancient dance of atmosphere and earth. I actually relaxed instead of disassociating. I was fully present. I didn't grab my phone to snap a pic. I didn't yearn for any other connection or thing. I was satisfied in the experience and concentrated on the rhythm of my breath, my beating heart, and nature embracing me. Just as the tendrils of fog gently caressed the mountaintops, I felt held by eternity, by being alive. The fog actually rolled and settled in all around the mountains and the coastline. And I decided Keenan was probably awake and it was time for breakfast, so I should probably go. While the fog was magnificent in many ways, it engulfed the mountains and they totally disappeared. This was near the end of my trip, and I was disappointed in not being able to see them anymore. And I had grown fond of the distinct double humped silhouette of Saddleback Mountain across Young's Bay. The coast had been transformed from sparkling and captivating to gray and mysterious. Thankfully, as it often does in Astoria, the fog settled in around 9 a.m. and it lifted by noon. The mountains returned for the rest of my trip, and the fog gave me a greater appreciation for the wondrously varied landscape. And that evening, my last one on the trip, I started thinking. I could feel creativity bubbling up in me from being able to rest and enjoy nature and be with my son. I began journaling, something I enjoy but normally don't have time for. And I thought about how both in nature and in my relationships with Keenan and others, clarity is not a prerequisite for compassion. I was reminded that even if there is no light around us, there is still light within us. Today, I want to reflect together on what it means to find beauty, not in brightness, but in complexity, in the space of transformation and uncertainty. Let us begin where I found pause in the fog. Right now, for me, the future feels especially hard to see. The headlines come fast and heavy. My son has been gone for more than a year now, and the empty nest is hitting me hard. It is overwhelming. I find myself second guessing my steps, wondering if anything I can do can really make a difference, missing my son tremendously, and yet I'm still here. I still reach. I still hope. I still find connection. Uncertainty and transition doesn't mean I'm lost. It invites me to slow down, to listen, to feel my way forward with care. Ethical culture doesn't offer us easy answers or dogma. It offers a compass that honors the worth and dignity of every person, the importance of reason and empathy, the call to build meaning and justice in this life with one another. Even when the world grows dim, ethical humanism reminds us we carry the light within us and within our ethical societies. We build ethical communities not as a refuge from the world, but as a promise to it, a living, breathing commitment to dignity and love. These connections shine even brighter when the world grows dark. And even though our movement is chiseled by time, we persist. Just like the sea stacks that line the Oregon coast, these weathered rock formations are shaped by centuries of waves. They've been battered by storms, and still they endure. They can serve as a symbol of people and movements who remain grounded in their values, even when trampled by a chaotic world. Ethical humanism doesn't ask us to be unchanging, but it does ask us to be anchored, to hold fast to compassion when cruelty is deafening, to protect dignity when it's under threat. That inner resolve, that clarity of conscience, that's the heart of the light within. The Oregon coast doesn't always offer sunshine. More often, the sky is gray, gentle, melancholic at best. And that honesty matters. We live in a culture that often tells us to be cheerful, upbeat, and unbothered all the time. But ethical humanism makes space for the full human experience, the sadness, the struggle, the questioning. Gray isn't failure, it's feeling, it's process, it's presence. Ethical culture founder Felix Adler encouraged us to act in ways that elicit the best in others and thereby ourselves. And sometimes eliciting the best means simply showing up, tender, uncertain, and real, explicitly becoming who we are. Scattered along the beach were pieces of driftwood, each shaped by tides, each uniquely weathered. None of it was what it used to be, but none of it was ruined. It was beautiful because of what it had been through. Ethical humanism sees every person as a work in progress. There's no arrival point. We are always becoming, growing through reflection, changing through experience, loving better, trying harder, stumbling, and learning from it. Life is worth living, even in its brokenness, perhaps especially in its brokenness, because that's where growth lives. Can you think of a moment where you were reshaped by experience? How did it make you stronger or more tender? Transformation typically doesn't happen in the spotlight, it happens in the quiet. That's where our light grows. The wind shapes everything on the coast: sand dunes, treetops, the way a kite climbs from the hand of a child on the beach. You can't always see it, but you feel it, just like love. Ethical humanism teaches us to trust in the unseen forces that give shape to our lives, our values, our relationships, our hopes for a better world. Just because these forces are unseen doesn't mean they're supernatural. They're rooted in our human capacity for empathy, for imagination, for moral growth. They are lived and felt, emerging from our choices, our communities, our shared efforts to create a more just and humane world. We may not always see immediate results from our actions, but we plant seeds. We lift each other up. We shape culture. We grow one ethical action at a time. Our light doesn't always need to be seen to matter. It sometimes moves in quiet ways. In fact, many facets of life are lived in depths we cannot see. Ethical living is not performance, it has depth. It's the quiet decisions we make when no one's watching, the way we hold ourselves accountable, the way we wrestle with questions that don't have easy answers. The light within doesn't always flash. Sometimes it glows deep and steady, like bioluminescence below the surface. The light on the Oregon coast shifts constantly: morning mist, midday silver, golden evening. And it reminded me, so do we. Ethical humanism doesn't give us a single way to live well. It gives us tools to live responsively, to keep growing, to reimagine, to adapt as we learn. We don't have to wait for everything to be clear before we act. We can begin in the light we have. Adler said, "The place where people meet to seek the highest is holy ground." Even when the light is gray, it is sacred because it's ours, because it comes from within, because it connects us together. So, what can we do in these turbulent times when the world feels heavy and the future unclear? I think I have some small, powerful practices that you can carry with you. First, live with intention, not perfection. Each morning, ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be today? Let that question shape how you speak, how you listen, how you move through the day. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to begin with purpose. Living with intention is not about flawless execution. It's about staying aligned with your values, even in the small moments. Speak with compassion. Use your voice, not to overpower, but to uplift. Standing up for what's right doesn't have to be confrontational, it can be courageous and kind. Speak truths that matter, especially in rooms where silence might prevail. You might be the spark someone else needs to feel seen, supported, or safe. Stay grounded in your values. When the noise is loud and the path is unclear, return to what you know, your ethical commitments. Who are you trying to be? What world are you trying to help us build? Staying rooted helps us weather the storm and make decisions that reflect the best of who we are. Invest in relationships. Justice grows best in community. Reach out, check in, deepen your ties. The strength of our bonds gives us courage and stamina, and it reminds us we're not here alone. In ethical communities, we care for one another, not just in crises, but in daily, sustaining ways. Take small actions. You don't have to do everything, just do something. Sign a petition, share a meal, offer a ride, show up for a cause that matters to you. Tiny actions, when repeated and multiplied, create meaningful change. Justice is not always grand. It often begins with a gentle knock, a phone call, a neighbor helped. Honor joy as resistance. In a world that often tells us to harden or despair, joy is a radical act. Make room for it. Laugh with friends. Dance in your kitchen. Watch the sunrise. These are not distractions, they're fuel. They remind us that they remind us what we're fighting for, and they keep our spirits strong. Before I left the Oregon coast, I stood for a while on the edge of the Columbia River, watching it merge with the Pacific. The wind tangled my hair while the sky flickered between gray and silver. Birds swooped and sang. In that still moment, I made a promise to myself that I would try to be more present, to disassociate less, and even though the pull by society to do so is so great, but to remain here now. I don't need to see the future to know I'm going somewhere that matters. I do need to cross that bridge into being present. I need to keep choosing to show up with love, with courage, with care. What I brought home wasn't just the magnificence of a place or the comfort of knowing my son is safe and happy and surrounded by beauty, but I also carried a profound interconnectedness with me, a sense that we are all part of something larger than ourselves, something shaped by connection, shaped by choice, shaped by us. Ethical humanism calls us not to flee the world, but to meet it with open eyes, open hands, and open hearts, to love without illusions, to act with courage, and to find one another in the mist. And to remember, even if the light cannot be seen, it burns in our bellies, warms our hearts, and nourishes our hope. May it guide us always. I'd like to invite you into a moment of reflection. You're welcome to share in the comments or reflect privately if that feels better, but consider this. What's one gray area in your life right now? How are you approaching it? Where have you felt the light within you, even if the world outside felt dim? Perhaps this week you might choose one small act of attention or care that reflects your deepest values. Not something dramatic, just something intentional. Because ethical life is often shaped in thoughtful daily habits. Thank you. May we find our way together, not beyond the gray, but through it.